Hey everyone, how you doing? Here we go. So today I'm going to talk about terror, which is chapter 4 in Anne Bogart's A Director Prepares. So I'm going to go through it, pointing out a specific maybe sentences, paragraphs that are in the book, which a lot of times I just refer to as sound bites, and then offer some musings to support some of the things that I've pulled up. I would love for you to respond by sending me any thoughts or questions that you develop as we talk through this, read it, watch it, all of that. And then if you can send me those, I will compile them and share with the rest of the class if you would allow me to do that. So I want to continue to connect as a class and as learning human beings despite our distance. So, okay, here we go. On page 79, Bogart begins by saying, in combination with the artist's deep sense of play, terror makes for compelling theater, both in the creative process and in the experience of the audience. So I would contend that most of our films come from exactly that combination. I mean, how can you play around with a terrifying topic, which could be anything from one's failure, certainly wars, the unraveling of relationship stereotypes, exploration of unknown geography, domestic abuse, bullying. Of course, the subjects go on and on, as many as there's films in our history. The terror comes with the dealing of the obstacles. So it is here where the human condition is explored. These are the plots, the character, the thought, the diction, the music, and even the spectacle that Aristotle speaks of, right? All of those things that we've been learning as this semester has unfolded. It is in the terror where we become disoriented. And then basically we just have to work our way out of it. And that's what you're watching protagonists and antagonists do in film. So Bogart talks about her experience of seeing Shakespeare for the very first time. And first of all, she was seeing it, experiencing it, not just reading it, as so many of us have had our first experiences to Shakespeare. She was doing what you were supposed to, and that was experiencing it all. So one thing I would ask you is, what was your first sensory experience that changed you? What was a concert? Was it a theater? Was it a dialogue? For me, my first concert was Cheap Trick at the Sioux Empire Fair when I was 16 years old. For theater, the first time I saw a Broadway show, I was actually an adult with children. It was Les Mis on tour in Minneapolis in 1986, and I was sobbing within the first 5 minutes. Some of it was just because of the technology that I had never seen before, like hydraulics on stage. I'd never seen a scrim, which is a drop of what you can see through. A view, maybe it's just a view. The first time I ever went snorkeling in Belize, I couldn't talk for a long time, like hours afterwards. I mean, I was smart. I knew there were things like sea turtles and eels and stingrays. I knew they existed. But experiencing like real Finding Dory in water, that color, it was almost too much for me. I mean, it was almost terrifying. And then I worked my way out. Maybe it's dialogue. Obviously, even knowing me for the short time that you have, you know that this is what I live for, a rich conversation. I'm hoping each of you will consider having one with me, a rich conversation at some point outside this class. I would absolutely love that. And I decided that I would make another short video about a conversation that was terrifying at the beginning, or maybe two that still hold dear to me as they started with terror, but then they stay tuned. Anyway, going back to Bogart and her Macbeth experience. Macbeth, I mean, of all Shakespeare's plays, Macbeth epitomizes how smart Shakespeare was, because he always included things that pandered to his audience. The people of the Renaissance, they believed in things like witchcraft and fairies and all of that. They loved gory violence. And so she was transported to that time through the inclusion of these things like witches, stabbings on stage, even the decapitation of a head, if you've read Macbeth, and placing it on the stick and wandering around the stage. It was gory. So in addition to those Shakespearean conceits within drama, she was enveloped in the words, the acting, the space, even the community, the people she didn't even know that she was sharing the theater with, that is the space itself. And it challenged her, right? It's a little bit terrified her, and then it moved her. So think about some of your significant life moments where you were terrified or challenged. As many times it's all about conquering a fear. Maybe it's a class that you're going into or applying for a job, starting a tough conversation, maybe even someone you're interested in, or maybe a conversation that you've been avoiding. Maybe it's about building something from scratch, a business, or even remodeling a room. We got time for that right now. How about the terror of having a baby? Some of you in this class know about that. There's a level of fear of which we all must jump. Throughout my years as a full-time professor and advising majors, I can recall too many times where I had a scared, sometimes crying student in my office, not ready to graduate, not knowing what or where they were going to, what were they going to do or go next. And my advice was typically the same. Pick the option that scares you the most. The bigger the risk, the more rewarding the result, even if it's failure. Because that next thing of disorientation of which you have to navigate through probably is something bigger and ultimately even better. So going back on page 83 is another one of my favorite sound bites when she writes, "We create out of fear, not out of a place of security and safety." And she quotes the German theoretical physicist Werner Heisenberg when he says, artists and scientists share a common approach. They enter into their work with one hand firmly grasping on the specific and the other hand on the unknown. We can only hope for that, like that, in these times that we're living today, March 25th, 2020, that we're living in unprecedented circumstances, totally rising out of fear. Fear of human contact, fear of getting sick, fear of a loved one dying, fear of no work, of finances, fear of not getting meals, fear of, long bouts of being home with a violent partner. I know, fear. We fear a loss of our normalcy. One of the saddest pictures that I've seen this week on my social media was a friend's 36-year-old son who I've known since he was little. He is highly autistic. For him, life is about routine. But because of COVID, his life routine has been uprooted. He can't live in his living assistant apartment with his caretaker anymore. He had to be moved home. No more routine outings like the library, swimming, friends visit. And he doesn't understand. This picture of Chris that's on my social media, all balled up, rocking on the floor of his parents' kitchen, the terror is palpable. It's a picture of fear. So think about this as you reflect on the films that you've watched. La La Land, I'm going to go through them. Singing in the Rain, Pixar's Story, Dances with Wolves, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Ordinary People, American History X, Precious, The Writer, Maltese Falcon, LA Confidential, and Schindler's List thus far. These plots all have moments that are rooted in fear. Of course, the horror genre exists and counts on humanity's fears. Jordan Peele wrote and directed Get Out based on the fear of being a Black man in today's world. The Shining revolves around suspense and surprise of true and human terror, but it's also a terror about what it means to be trapped. So most of their impetus of these films arose from a fear. So remember this, as you continue to explore the movies of which you probably would have never experienced had you maybe not conquered a fear and decided to go to college and then another fear to sign up for this class. Remember, what is the fear and how is it being conquered? So Bogart goes on to say, when addressing fear, and yet, she says, I am somehow changed when the journey is complete. Well, we know now that is catharsis. That is the emotional purge of what Aristotle says you make art out of. That makes art art. You experience and you become a better person for it. So to quote the musical Wicked, you are changed for the good. You may not even be able to verbalize how it changed you. So on the bottom of page 81 to the top of page 82, Bogart writes, we label as much as we can with language in the hope that once we have named something, we need no longer fear it. This labeling enables us to feel safer, but it also kills the mystery in what has been labeled. It removes the life and the danger of what has been defined. So basically, a little fear is okay. It's exciting. It makes us hungry to know and maybe even be more. Read that paragraph a couple times. Go back to it. Read it again. Think on that paragraph. Chew on it. But then don't label it. See what I did there? Anyway, on the bottom of page 82, Bogart says this. Theater, substitute art, film, photography, whatever, right, functions to remind us of the big human issues. It's there to remind us of our terror and our humanity. In our quotidian, which means daily lives, we live in constant repetition of habitual pattern. And many of us sleep through our lives. Art should offer experiences that alter these patterns, awaken what is asleep, and remind us of our original terror. I actually just printed that paragraph out and stuck it to my bathroom mirror. If I could be, really get a little bit lazy and go into the poor, it would be easy to get poor me's and get lazy right now, right? But there's other people that have jobs that hold, and we're not supposed to leave our homes. And our daily living patterns are limited. But I would encourage you to not give in to the apathy. Find something that terrifies you and start chipping away at it. Again, it could be small, be a conversation. Maybe you write a poem, sing karaoke, make a TikTok, for Pete's sakes. And the last paragraph on page 83, Bogart quotes actor William Hurt. He's from The Big Chill, also some of my favorites, Children of a Lesser God, and one of my all-time favorites, Broadcast News. In fact, let me know if you want to watch those. I might add for extra credit. Hurt says, quote, those who function out of fear seek security. Those who function out of trust seek freedom. I agree with Bogart when she contends that the most dynamic and thrilling choices are made when there is trust in the process. It has to be trust in the artists, within the material, within the space, all of that. The misuse of terror, frankly, of any of those words outlined in the book could be terrifying in itself. In fact, I'm going to make another quick little video telling you about a story about a time where I unwittingly got tangled in the middle of a situation with a South Dakota high school teacher who misused his power in the arts in such a way that induced terror, violence, and stereotype. There are way too many people or stories of people behaving badly in the name of art, and this is unacceptable. I think about that a lot as we pull back the curtain of people such as Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby's, and kills me, but even the Michael Jacksons. I mean, also there are other monsters in our midst, like Bernard Bucciolini, the director of The Last Tango in Paris. I'm going to let you Google that story about what he and Marlon Brando did to the young ingenue in that particular film, The Last Tango in Paris, that is. It's unforgivable. I mean, they were people, they used terror and a misuse of trust, and that compromises art. And it's wrong, and it's unethical. Moving on. I like what Bogart is talking about on page 85 because it's so applicable no matter what you do for a living. She talks about the terror of feeling like you at times are out of your league. That starting something new or having to learn something new is frightening. And that too many times we all think we must always be in control or give the illusion that we are, that we must have all the answers to everything. Otherwise, we demonstrate weakness. I mean, think about that in your job. Does that apply? She goes on to say that being vulnerable with our fears can lead to the best of collaboration. And I totally agree with this. I've always said that I'm the Queen Elizabeth I of England when it comes to theater. She was the queen that finally gave England their autonomy, but she did it by delegating all the best people in the right spots and then just took all of the credit for being so smart and putting those people there. I mean, let someone know you want to be taught by them. Be a sponge, and people will choose you to be part of their team each and every time. I teach this to some of my kids in Belize as fishing and snorkeling guides. Make people feel important, and you're going to get bigger tips. And Maya Angelou is famous for saying, people will forget what you said, people forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So skipping to the bottom of page 86, I like the questions she poses, of which the questions are, how do we get out of our own way? And how can we become a vessel through which other people can speak, right? Again, I think this boils down to terror of someone discovering that we're some sort of fraud. One of my mentors, the great Robert Cohen, who wrote Acting 1, which is the go-to acting text in most colleges. He's brilliant. He's a lovely human being. I love him. Can you tell? He reminds us in his book that we should take what we do seriously, but we should never take ourselves that seriously. If we approach life like this, well, it gives us permission to say simply, I don't know. More importantly, it's an opportunity to show our own frailties and vulnerabilities so that we can learn more and be better. Truly, I'm only as good as a teacher as I am a student. And if we live our new normal, well, maybe this is the time right now, as we're living our new normal, to push into whatever has been holding you back, right? Maybe now, with this time, it's time to learn that musical instrument. Maybe it's time to pull up Duolingo and learn Spanish. Or, again, I keep saying this, but have maybe that hard conversation with someone you've been avoiding. Because what will result is personal vitality. Bogart defines vitality in art as a result of articulation, energy, and differentiation. Vitality creates, whatever that is. This is where positive culture comes from. Art creates art, just like negativity breeds more negativity. Reread the indented paragraph about vitality on page 87. It's pretty delicious. And on page 88, Bogart talks about Americans' general inability to deal with conflict. She warns us that by avoiding disagreement, we can have become passive, which is the complete opposite of vitality. We risk having our truths given to us instead of discovering them all by ourselves. I think we can all resonate with this, right? Especially as South Dakotans, we don't want to bother with anyone or become the focus of attention. We're just South Dakota nice. Passivity is just that. It invites us to live a life of fear and terror of what, oh gosh, God forbid, what people may think of me. My favorite sentence in this chapter is actually found on page 87. And I'm not going to expound on it right now, but I encourage you to do so. Here's the deal. It will definitely show up as an essay question on exam too. Okay? Hint, hint. This sentence is the sentence. The creation of art is not an escape from life, but a penetration into it. It does remind me of a line from the musical Rent by Jonathan Larson, one of my favorite lyrics from La Vie Bohème, the end of Act 1. And it's this line, the opposite of war isn't peace. it's creation. So today, I challenge you to identify, embrace, and then address the terror in your life. Me? I do with it. I'm finally going to learn how to play this ukulele I bought 4 years ago. I'll keep you posted. Anyway, miss you all. Be safe. Look for a couple other anecdote filled videos. And carpe diem. Talk to you soon.